You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace, you're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Heru, and we got our good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
Oh, brother, enjoying life, brother, and taking it a day at a time. How about yourself?
Man, no complaints, man. Just trying to make my next move, my best moves, and like I always say, man, trying to get like you, man.
One of these days, we'll be able to match hands. One of these days, man. One of these days.
Indeed. Indeed. Before we get too far, though, I want to remind you all that this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group and Caliprucia Astrology and our patrons over there on Patreon. Once again, thank you all for your support, and all that you contribute to the show or whatnot, yeah, man, we're really, really pleased with, our Patreon activity and everything like that. So, special shout out to, you people indeed or whatnot. But, if you want to find Push It Forward Media Group, you can find us on Instagram at Push It Forward, PUSHITFWD.com. On Instagram, it's Push It Forward, spelled the same way, PUSHITFWD. You can find us there. Make sure you follow Cosmic Convos Podcast on Instagram as well. At Cosmic Convos, COSMICCONVO. That's on Instagram, and we're Cosmic Convos Podcast on Facebook. You can find us there, and I know we got a lot of listeners that's overseas and different things that find us a bunch of different ways. So connect with us on social media. All right, and like I said, we got the charts for sale, Push It Forward, and Ra, how do people can get a hold of you?
The same old same. You can hit me up on IG or Facebook under Shechem Ra, or you can hit me up on calipruciaastrology@gmail.com. There will be a website coming soon, so you'll also be able to get with me on that, where you'll be able to schedule readings, consultations, pay for classes, actually read blogs. In fact, some of the things that we have here might be displayed there as well. So be on the lookout for that as well.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm definitely, excited to see when that's finally done, man. I got a sneak peek, man. It's going to be next level, man. Indeed, man. So, here we are, man. Episode 3 of season 3. Last episode we switched it up a little bit, man, and it got a pretty good response. A lot of people liked that format with the guest on there and different things like that, man. So we definitely look forward to doing some more of that, man. What's the feedback you've been getting from that? Having a guest on the show?
A lot of great feedback. Yeah, a lot of great feedback. A lot of people really enjoyed the fact that we were able to isolate just that one piece and blow it up in such a big way where it shows that just that small piece of information is worth volumes, right, when it comes to really understanding how life unfolds. So a lot of good feedback on that one, definitely.
Absolutely, man. I mean, because in the West, man, we're, a lot of us are coming up from being introduced to astrology through kind of a sun sign paradigm, right? And, part of what we're doing with this show is really just showing the power of that ascendant, and how much information you can get from that first lord, and of course the moon and stuff like that. So it's kind of changing what people are looking at when they think about I mean, I don't use the loose term, hey, what's your sign? I don't use that. But
Mm-hmm.
if people are starting to look at that concept a little differently, if they were to refer to their sign, people are starting to think about their ascendant or their moon more than what they, are everyone else is doing is the sun or whatnot,
Right.
man.
Right. The
So
trifecta, the Sudarshana chakra.
mhm, indeed, man. So I think that's a great contribution, you know, absolutely. Or whatnot, man. But yeah, I think just having an opportunity, man, to get somebody on here that's not studying this stuff heavily like that, but they got things that they got going on and stuff like that, and being able to break that down and, being able to, see what the future beholds and how they may need to position themselves or what they should expect, man. I think that's there's a lot in that. I think a lot of people will be able to benefit from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see the brother doing big things, definitely doing big things. So you're projecting that energy out to him. Definitely sending some light and love to him and his family.
Absolutely, man. And if you're in New Orleans, man, go check out Ital Garden, man, or whatnot, man. They definitely, man, he's excellent at what he does for sure. He got a whole team of them over there, you know, putting in good work, man. So definitely go check out Ra Yosef and download his mixtape too, man. He's a dope MC too, or whatnot, So definitely go check him out or whatnot. But yeah, man. You know, we're at episode 3, season 3, episode 53 or whatnot, man. I think, I didn't really even look at this on purpose, but it just kind of synced the
Mm-hmm.
way how it is. And, there's some relevance there, right? As far as what's happening right now in the world, a little different, but, in this episode, um, we wanted to cover somebody in a category that we haven't really done yet. You understand what I'm saying? We haven't done a lot of foreign rulers. I know we did the episode on kings and, queens royalty and stuff like that. But we haven't really done a lot of foreign rulers and stuff like that. And I think, in light of kind of where the world is at right now and the different things that people are interested in, I think this would be a good guy to definitely check into. Um, And so today we're going to look at the the brother, the former Libyan ruler, Muammar al-Gaddafi, and whatnot.
Yeah. Omar.
That definitely a polarizing figure. What you have to say about him really just depends on what political persuasion you have, or maybe what you know or what you don't know, and just kind of your whole worldview. Depends on how you actually view him, but nobody can say that he wasn't a major world, he definitely could not say that he was not a major world player
Mm-hmm.
while he was alive. That definitely wouldn't be a true statement at all. So yeah, man, I think this is an excellent show, man. Excellent person to go over.
Yes. The chart definitely lends credence to show the power, right? And not only the power, but what happens when you get to a certain level of power. And so,
Yeah.
it's an excellent person to really examine why certain players in the world are dangerous, why they're considered to be um, a problem, right?
Yeah.
And you know, when you start off and you understand astrology, a lot of times we start off with a view that is really kind of westernized, just like we talked about with the sun sign piece. And, you know, we think that we kind of understand what it is, but when you get deeper into it, you really get shocked to a degree because a lot of the mysteries and the confusion are removed, especially around signs and what they do.
Yeah.
And so Cancer has really gotten a reputation in the West that really kind of shows the type of soft natured, caring, considerate, devoted, sacrificial, motherly, paternal type individual. And that's only very partially true, right?
Hmm.
Cancers are actually really, especially for from the masculine aspect of it, from the masculine perspective, cancers are very much aggressive, right? Believe it or not,
It's a
right?
crap.
Exactly. This is not a push button type individual, right? Right? They're very much adamant and defensive and can fight, right? Muhammad Ali,
Cancer
right?
ascendant, yeah.
Yeah, good brother friend of mine, Asar Ka, right? Cancer ascendant. And the thing about cancers is that for men, a lot of times it gives them that kind of staunch, defensive, right? Kind of uh, no nonsense type disposition, but at the same time, once you know them, they diffuse you, right? They can really kind of show you that no, there is a side to me that I am actually um, a type of individual that is considerate, polite, so forth. So it's kind of a strange mix, but for the most part, Cancer men are very much militaristic, right? They can be very um, needing to feel that protection, right? That safety, that security, and a lot of times physical defense, right? Martial arts, you'll find, any type of self defense, right? Cancers can typically lean into that, right? Because they have that need to, want to protect not only themselves but others.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm a Cancer ascendant.
Mm-hmm.
I wrestled a lot coming
Mm-hmm.
up. That was one of my main sports. All
Yeah.
through
See,
middle school, high school. Then I got into capoeira, stuff like that.
see, that's the Cancer disposition. So, see, for the male side is very much aggressive, very much not domineering, but can come off a little tough, right? A
Hmm.
little, not rough, but not someone you just want to go in and pick a fight with, right? And so, um, Gaddafi, right, being a Cancer ascendant, now there are some conjectures about the times and the dates, right? Yes, we understand, right? And for the most part, these guys are trying. It's hard to get really solid birth certificate data, right? Because in those days, I mean, granted, he's born, and we're gonna talk about it and how his kind of upbringing was, but he's born where they don't have that kind of thing, right? They don't have hospitals that stamp you and say, okay, the state recognizes you born at this date and this time. So we had to rely on some data. It may be a little. If you find data that's definitely contrary to it, just understand that this has not been scrubbed. It hasn't been rectified. It's just data that we've been able to garner, and it very much so fits the puzzle quite well. And you'll see how here in just a minute.
Confluence.
So, absolutely. So, he's a Cancer ascendant at 2 degrees. I'm sorry, no, 12 degrees, which puts him in Pusha Nakshatra. And so Cancer again, right? They show this disposition of being very patriotic, right? Very much protective of the homeland, right? They love their people, right? Cancers typically have a very strong, prominent love for their people, their community, right? And of course, like I said, an extension thereof of their nation. And so this individual, right, bar none, right? And I mean, this guy ruled for quite some time. He wasn't just a fly by night ruler. He stuck in there and fought the good fight to the very end. So
Yeah.
when you see this type of chart, it really speaks volumes to the power that it holds. And so his Mars, which is a very powerful planet, in fact, it's the Yoga Karaka for Cancer ascendants. And so because of course it rules the fifth and the 10th house, Mars is in the ascendant at 2 degrees, which is extremely powerful yoga. This is a Raja Yoga, bar none, right?
Yeah.
And so you really understand that when you see this type of individual, not only do we know that he's a Cancer, has a Cancer ascendant, right? Pusha as a nakshatra, and Pusha are the ones that are very spiritually organized, right? They're very much designed to kind of handle higher knowledge, very hospitable. In fact, I've heard a number of times where people come there and they say they were treated like royalty when they come to his country. So very hospitable, very well-rounded individuals. What pushas are, in fact, it's one of the symbols of pusha is a flower, which talks about that symbol of being round, right, being whole. So Mars being in the ascendant definitely makes him a fighter, right? It's already Cancer, so he's just going to add more fuel to the fire, right? That Mars in the disposition is going to actualize that defense mechanism to the height of what you can imagine, right? So, looking at it, from the way he's described, right? There's kind of a strange thing that they say he's really a nice person. He's really generous. He's really giving. And I mean, actually, his country, if you think about how he ruled his country, and that's what Cancer is all about, right, is their homeland. He took care of his own, right?
Yeah.
I believe, if I'm correct, your college education was free, right?
I believe so. I think they had quite a bit of free programs out there in Libya.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was reported that he shared a lot of the resources, and now this is reported because you got different sides from different perspectives. But one side said that he actually did share a lot of the resources with the nation. That he wasn't the type of leader, or quote unquote dictator, that would hoard or not really reinvest the money back into the country. That's what it's really about, is when you take the resources and put it back into the infrastructure. Right?
Well, they had a lot of oil wealth.
Exactly.
Right. So I mean, he as far as the citizens got, reportedly got a good bit of that oil wealth that was redistributed throughout the country.
Exactly. So that Mars in the ascendant really talks about protecting the home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing about it is that the fourth lord, which is actually also considered, like your upbringing, your home, right, where you're from, the fourth lord is ruled by Mars, right? Venus is ruled by Mars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, whenever a planet rules another planet and it connects to a house, we call that sambandha. Mm-hmm. And that creates a direct connection. So that means that man loves, because Venus is in the 10th, looking back at the 4th, his homeland. And then Mars being in the ascendant, right, definitely going to fight for it, right? Definitely going to fight for it, right? And so you can see, right, whenever it's in the 10th house, aspects the 4th house.
Yeah.
So if it's aspecting that fourth house paradigm or type of perception is receiving and imbibing all that love from Venus. So he's going to love his home. And Venus rules the fourth house. So again, right, really showing that this is an individual that from all intents and purposes was there to try to uplift and try to at least protect, right, where he's from. The other thing that we can look at, and starting off and understanding a chart, is that the second house is kind of a tell-all of a person's upbringing, right? The second and the fourth house, but the second house specifically early childhood. And so it's reported, right, that he literally was born into poverty. I mean, when I say poverty, we think poverty over here is, being in a raggedy house, right, with very little to eat, very little access to resources, which, yes, it is poverty. But when we talk about poverty in a foreign country, a third world country, it's a different level of poverty. Yeah. Right? There are no street lights. There is no grocery store around the corner. There's nowhere you can go and get the next medicine to try to, it doesn't work that way, right? So, when we understand, right, that Muammar, right, grew up in a very rough life, right? The second lord, right, is the sun. And so the sun, as you can see, is at 22 degrees 58 minutes or 22 degrees 57 minutes, right? And you have Saturn combust the sun. Now look, Saturn, when it's in at least 13, well, about was it 13 degrees? That's considered, or 12 degrees, that's considered combust, right? That's too close for Saturn and sun to be together.
Mm-hmm.
So that burns, right? That literally singes, that literally crushes, right? The kind of way a person is brought up, right? It makes them feel very deprived, right? Very, very disenfranchised, because Saturn is that planet. And literally, Saturn is directly, I mean, it's the worst planet you can have conjunct the sun, right? So they're enemies. And when they have that enemy disposition, one is going to win, right? One's going to lose. Well, that sun, right, being the ruler of the second, is going to lose, right? Because Saturn is in Taurus, and Saturn is empowered when it's in Taurus. So literally, Saturn is the ruler that's going to take action. And then Venus, which is the ruler of the 11th, is in the 10th, also giving power to that 11th house combination. So the sun is crushed.
Yeah.
Right. And the sun is in an enemy sign as well, in Venus's sign. So by all intents and for all intents and purposes, this person grew up in a very, very poor, very disenfranchised home. Right.
Yeah.
And what happens is that normally these are the things that catalyze or become catalysts for people to become great people, because they start off from very meek and humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think he was born like in a little desert community, you know what I mean? And just like in a little tent or something.
Yeah.
Something.
Bedouins. They're the Bedouins.
The Bedouins. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't
Desert
get poorer
dwellers.
than that. Yeah, that's just dirt poor. When I say dirt, literally dirt poor, right? And so this is to show the credence of the chart, because you see everything should fold into what the person is actually living out in their life. And so that sun being conjunct Saturn as the ruler of the second, which is early childhood, shows clearly that there is some major restrictions and frustrations from experiencing life from a child. Now, moving into things, right? And, this is where we kind of really start to get into the dashas, because the dashas kind of really hone us into the unfoldment of the life and how things play out. Now, his dashas, he starts off in a Saturn dasha. Now, here, he starts off in a Saturn dasha, and his sun is conjunct, the second lord is conjunct Saturn, right? So, and it's combust. So, I mean, again, showing that life is starting off from this perspective. Saturn dasha, right? And the jump off is real. So, right, the next dasha that he enters in is Mercury, right? And Mercury starts in 52, and it goes all the way up into 69. Now, according to the resources that, read so far, it shows that his education, when we want to look to education in a chart, we're going to look, the first planet is, of course, what? Mercury, right? Because Mercury governs the ability for us to have memory recall, to be rational, to use our brain to solve intellect. And so that's a karak, or an indicator for education. Well, his Mercury is in the 12th house, right? In Gemini, rules the third, but it's conjunct Jupiter. And so he starts the dasha, I believe at about 9-ish, right? Yeah, he should be about 9 years old. Yep, he's 9.
Mm-hmm.
And so 9, right? At this age, right, they say that his education was highly religious. Right now, barring from, the fourth house, the fourth lord, and looking at those things and other indicators of education, it also shows that when you look at the indicator or the karak or the significator, it's conjunct Jupiter.
Yeah.
Right. So this shows that obviously, right, that the education, the knowledge, the information comes from a very religious purview. Now, here's the thing. The 12th house is the house of expenditure, of loss, but it's also the house of surrender. Right. And so Islam Islam means, right, to surrender. right? And so that religious aspect, the 12th house is a very spiritual house. So the education comes from that purview, right? Now, right up until was it 69, right? He's in this dasha. Now they also report that at the late between 66 and 69 is when he went in for military training, and they said he kind of had a rough upbringing. Well, if you look at the second house, now we said the second lord shows the upbringing, but planets in the second house also show the upbringing. And what's in that second house?
Rahu.
Rahu, which is the bad boy, right? So it also shows as a young man coming up, right? Definitely was one that was familiar with the street life, or at least the life that we would all consider as being unsavory. Rahu in the second house many times can show that as an upbringing, that the family or the person themselves were surrounded by maybe, let's say, unsavory people. But when he started the 1966 to 69, he registered and actually went into military school, right? And strangely enough, right here, and let me say this to you folks. These are rules, right? So these things don't change. They're modified, but they don't change. Meaning they're adjusted, right, per each kind of rule that we go through and unfold things. But let's say this, right? For one, if you look at a chart, you always want to look at several different things. Right? We were discussing earlier, this is becoming more in vogue, that you don't just look to the sun sign to kind of figure it all out. Well, we also look to the moon sign, because the moon becomes a second ascendant. And if we look at the moon, fourth from the moon is Mercury, right? Mm-hmm. So that person also is showing that the education during the childhood, because moon is childhood, right? Fourth from the moon is Mercury, and it's conjunct what? Jupiter. So reaffirming again, right, that this person's education was primarily spiritual at first, right? But again, understanding, and we could probably go through and really isolate when that Mercury period hits. It probably hits in a point where at 66, it opens the door for some more martial or more fiery energies to learn, right, what he needs to learn as far as military signs and things of that nature. Let's see. Now, yes, in 66, it's a Mercury-Saturn dasha, and Saturn is a malefic, right? So showing as well, right, that's when he would have entered into that particular learning Mercury, right, process. Saturn also owns K2, which acts like Mars, right? It's in the 8th house. So again, showing further deeper that when that Saturn period ensued, K2 or martial or militaristic processes were also part of that education. And then also Sun does conjunct, it is combust, or well, Saturn is combust. So Saturn having that heat index also is fiery to a degree. It's angry, it's frustrated. So when that Mercury Saturn dasha hits, he's beginning to plan in for the coup. He has the coup probably coup d'etat in his mind right then. Because what happens in 1969?
Coup d'etat.
Coup d'etat, right? I mean, and again, another rule, folks. When these periods change in flux, when they go from dasha from mahadasha to mahadasha, the dasha bhukti, as they say, this is going to be a change. And every single client that I deal with says the same thing. Wow, that is crazy how when the dasha bhukti hits, things change. We're going to see the dasha bhukti play out in his life pretty good, right? In fact, the end of life is going to even show us something very special, or very unique, rather. So going deeper, right, showing that this particular coup d'etat, right, a takeover, the overthrow of the government happens. Now, how can we see coup d'etat through this, through the next dasha? Well, number one is K2. That says a whole lot, right? K2 is in the 8th house, and the 8th house is subversive movements, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's hidden, sudden, unexpected manifestations, right? Out of nowhere. Right? It's in the 12th from his moon. But the 12th from his moon, the ruler of the 12th from his moon is Saturn in the 3rd. So it also showing that this action, right, the feeling of it, right, is going to come through some innate, some drive, some need to overthrow the what?
Government.
So let's look at it. This is how you read. This is how you begin to read the dashas. So the dasha itself is K2, right?
Mm-hmm.
K2 is headless and body. Literally, K2 has no real power other than it's a nodal point. It is powerful, it's real, but it has no mass,
Yeah.
right? So it not being a planet of itself, we have to look to the lord of that planet. So the lord of that planet is Saturn. Now, of
Yeah.
course, K2 is in the 8th, so we always understand that the K2 in the 8th houses, the 8th house themes are going to play out, right? But Saturn ruling K2 is also going to be a theme. And Saturn is about frustration. It's about the people. It's a planet of the masses, right? Aquarius is the sign that deals with people as a whole, groups, organizations, and social structures,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So Saturn ruling this planet shows that this time is going to be a surprises that's trying to deal with or uplift or at least change the benefit towards the masses. Now, Saturn is conjunct the sun. And when that happens, Saturn is saying, hey, I don't like the government. I want to overthrow it. That's
Yeah.
how you begin to read the dashas, right? Saturn's in the 11th of groups and organizations. So who else would have helped him overthrow but a what? Group and organization.
And it was he started his own military kind of club, like a military kind of group for like young people and stuff like that he started with his friends. And that's the group that eventually conspired with him to be able to overthrow the government at the time.
There it is. I mean, you don't get no better than that.
Yeah.
That's why this chart really is, I'm pretty sure it's his chart. So, right, showing now, not only that, now so we see the dasha, then you read it from the moon, because the moon is the infrastructure and the feeling, right, and the emotional kind of atmosphere the person is going through. So looking at the moon, the Saturn and Sun go to the 3rd house, which is action.
And y'all, I just rotated it to the moon
Oh, I
chart
see
so
it.
y'all can see
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. It's action, right? Taking over, right? I mean, you can't get any better than this, right? And the moon is motivated from a religious purview because Jupiter is the ruler and it's in the 4th house conjunct that Mercury. So when he got his education in the Mercury period, an ideology presented itself in order for him to do what he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clearly seen,
Yeah.
right? And so, you really understand these particular perspectives from it starts to make so much more sense. Now, also to show you how this works, let's see. Now, so what we also, and we're going to have a show on this here coming up soon, right? About the Caracas, right? And so, there's three different systems, right, with Caracas, but for the most part, there's Stira and there's Chara. And Chara is the Caracas that move, that change based on the degree of the planet. Well, isn't it so strange that the Nati Karaka, which is a planet that talks about that drive and ambition, right, the courage, the fighter aspect, the spiritual, the fighter aspect of us that's in our spirit, it's his Dar Karaka, right? I mean, his Nati Karaka is Mars. Whenever the Nati Karaka is conjunct the ascendant, it's a yoga for war or a yoga for fighting, especially when Mars is it. Right. So again, showing that this man had a definite drive to fight, to try to exact justice is really what it is, right? For his people, right, which is Cancer, right, and then not only that, for his people and his homeland, to try to literally make them better, to try to better them, because Venus is the planet that refines and tries to uplift, and it's aspecting the fourth house ruled by Mars as well. So all of these things show clearly that this man was there to try to, and they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but try to, right, uplift or try to change his nation for the better, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
he was definitely a military guy. He was a military leader. That's his background.
absolutely, Mars in the ascendant as a Nati Karaka, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now his Atma Karaka is his Atma Karaka is conjunct Saturn,
Mm-hmm.
right? Isn't that interesting? Because that means the soul, right, is here to deal with the frustrations of government. Because Saturn is conjunct it's conjunct, right? Bhatri Karaka is Saturn, which indicates your fellow brethren, the people that you call colleagues and cohorts, right? And so that's combust, right? So it shows that literally that link with the brothers is one of that it comes through dissatisfaction or distaste, right? Because you don't have anybody can have those planets can be anything, right?
Yeah.
But when they become the Nati Karak, now check it out, right? Venus is the Amacha Karak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which indicates a lot of times the access point that the soul has to use in order to exact its will, to exact its lessons.
Yeah.
And so where is the Amacha Karak and what sign?
Aries, 10th
Which is
house.
military leader,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the 10th house of leadership itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So showing his career as a ruler. Boom! Right? Can't get any better than that. Right? It's just sweet how it's arranged. Right? Perfectly. Right? His Mercury, his Adara Karaka, Mercury, many times when the Adara Karaka is Mercury, that person will have more than one wife. Right? Because Mercury is all about variety and change and travel and movement.
Mm-hmm.
And Mercury, we understand, it's in the 12th house. Good sign for two wives, at least. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The 12th house is house of 6th house from the 7th, which shows divorce. Right?
There's back to what you're saying about Venus, right there. There's also another interesting thing he had. His personal security was all women.
Women. It sure was. It's called the Amazonians,
Yep.
right? Amazonian Guard, which
Mm-hmm.
actually he got from India, right? In the Artha Veda, right?
Arthur Shastra.
Arthur Shastra, right? Yep.
Yeah.
They show how the bodyguard of a man should be, and these women were virgin according to folklore or legend or whatever. They were virgins.
Yeah.
They pledged themselves to virginity. Now that's deep, right? Right. You got women that ain't been touched by a man, right?
Yeah.
Ready to die for you, right? That's deep, right? And I mean that Venus plays out well, very, very much so in the 10th house. So thank you for pointing that out. That's excellent, man.
Yeah.
Excellent. So moving deeper into this, right? So when the K2 period happens, right? He gets married. Now he see K2 periods are you look at this. He has a coup d'etat, right? Gets married,
Uh-huh.
divorces her, and gets married in the same year. Literally.
That's a lot.
When you check it out, it's like
That's a whole lot.
that's a whole lot.
Real
Man. Right. Man. Well, guess what? What aspects K2? Mars.
Mars, yeah.
Right? And so when Mars aspects K2, you can pretty much guarantee that first marriage pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
The second one is actually who birthed he stayed with her until the very end. But they had a lot of stories about he was ladies' man. He would pay for it, take care. You wouldn't be missing a meal. Or I mean, he's a king. I mean, you have to take in consideration. This is royal. This was considered not royalty in the sense of birthright, but royalty in the sense of his position. And so, um, great relationships with other people. Though now, here's some other things to consider. He's in a Venus Dasha period for 20 years, right? Venus is in the 10th house, right? Venus removes 100 evils from the chart. Literally, it's in the 10th, it's in power. That whole period, you couldn't really touch him. Right?
No. Yeah.
For most part, the guy's in power. There's nothing you can do, right? And so the thing is that during a Venus Dasha, a lot of things happen with regards to social interactions and social kind of unfoldments and dealing with people from even outside of. People think Rahu is foreign. It is, but Venus also deals with people in mass, different groups. Yeah. And so Venus, right? Strange that we have a leader in this country, right, that was connected to Muammar Gaddafi. And the Nation of Islam is notorious for having a relationship by which Muammar Gaddafi loaned or granted them $5 million, three of which were used to purchase Mosque Mariam.
Yeah.
And so that is a serious statement, because one of the things that he was very notable for is recognizing that the black man actually is the rightful ruler of Africa, right? And so, remember, in his early upbringing during the Mercury Dasha, he was probably taught by a great deal of very enlightened spiritual people from that particular area for all intents and purposes. But his ideology was one that really showed that he really did want to try to help the black man, right?
Yeah.
Not only in which, considering the Nation of Islam is a entity that is across the water, right? And has no direct ties, but he was lending, individuals that were trying to create a new paradigm for us, $5 million. And in 85, $5 million.
That's a grip.
That's a grip.
That's a big grip.
That's like 20 million today, right? So considering now, there's some other stories, right? And this all ties back to the black man amazingly. And we're going to talk about his role here before he actually checked out, right? Which is really why he got taken out, right? But there was a conspiracy, or a so-called charge brought on the Black Keystone Rangers in Chicago, which is a very well-known black gang in the Chicago area. Has, of course, ties and affiliations across the United States, but very prominently founded in Chicago by Jeff Fort. And during the 80s, they were brought up on charges for attempting to correlate with the Libyan government in order to shoot down a plane. And they were caught up in charge. So again, and now El Rukins, if you know anything about that subculture, the Black Keystone, the P is for pyramid, right? And a lot of El Rukins and things like that are connected with Moorish Science, Temple of America, and things like that, MSTA. But they were a group that was actually considered terrorists by the United States government, and as such were charged and they linked them to Libya for espionage and terrorist purposes. Strangely enough, like, again, the black man, right? Again, trying to, not saying that's the way to go, but again, just knowing that there is a connection that this man is trying to establish around the world to get us to wake up. Now, the other thing is that he actually became a president of the African Union. And I'm pretty sure this was during his Sun Dasha, if I'm correct, right? Or towards, it might have been the Sun Dasha and then into the Moon Dasha. In fact, let's check to see. So no, he's in the Sun Dasha in 1996. His Moon Dasha is when he would have been in that position. But again, the Moon is in the ninth house, right? And the ninth house is the house of being a what? Guru, advisor, counselor, guide, teacher, instructor, right? And so many times leaders, right, can take on this position of being just that and saying, hey, let me go ahead and help you out and show you what it is that we need to do.
Yeah.
Now, the moon rules the ascendant, which also shows the position of leadership and notoriety for himself, right? Because anytime the ascendant lord is prominent in a dasha, that means that you are the person that's going to be active. It's going to be about you personally, right? And you personally is your body. Your actual apparatus is one that's on display. So therefore, leadership is an actual epithet of the first house lord, first lord dasha.
Yeah.
So again, showing, right? This is all what it is. Now, fourth from the moon rules Jupiter rules the fourth. I mean, Jupiter rules the moon, and it's in the fourth from the moon, also showing, right, that the ruler of this planet still puts him in a Kendra from the moon, which also still makes it very powerful and very advantageous for him during this time. So this is the time when he literally becomes the ruler of the African Union. Now, at that time, there's a lot of controversy about what was going on in the particular African Union, but what is very strongly conveyed amongst different sources is that he was in the position of trying to create a new structure within the African continent that had its money backed by gold. Right? Now, that's very dangerous because this is something that you don't play with. You can play with people's anything, but when it comes to their money, and I'm talking about not just the sense of money when it comes to, stopping or thwarting it, but taking control and guiding other people as if you're now the literal value of the dollar. That is dangerous. Right? That's more dangerous than any bomb you can drop. Any North Korea, you see, they didn't mess with, and they could have got to him, right? They didn't mess with him. But Gaddafi, yeah, you want to change the game? Yeah. And there was purported that he had nukes, right? We don't know, right? Purportedly. But they'll say anything to get you out of there, right?
Oh, yeah.
But we do know, right, that he was confirmed the African leader. He was a leader of the African world for the most part. Right?
That's a, he got a Gaj Kasari.
He does have a Gaj Kasari because it's in the fourth from the moon. You're absolutely right.
So that moon,
Yep.
Trigger that.
Yeah. So that moon's going to trigger that. You're absolutely right. That gigantic, because Gaj Kasari just means it's an elephant, right? Mm-hmm. So it literally makes you massive, large, right? Mm-hmm. Overwhelming, unstoppable to a degree. And they had to do this at that time because had he continued, he'd have got to what dasha? What was the next dasha?
Mars.
Boom! They had to stop him before he got there. They had to. Because had he got to his Yoga Karaka dasha, man, it would have been problems.
Yeah, he probably. I mean, I don't even like saying what I was about to say, but some sort of, you'll see a more, let's say, a more organized, more ambitious African Union, to say the least.
Ooh. Yeah. Now you said you were breaking down the Green Book, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty deep because the Green Book, Mercury is the color what? Green.
And
it's conjunct Jupiter, and it's in the fourth from the moon, right? That the Green Book. I mean, you can't get any better than that, right? Mm-hmm. That shows that this is this man's manifesto, his modus operandi, his program, right?
Yeah.
His heart's felt desire, which is the fourth from the moon, right? Pretty interesting.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, his Green Book it's not the same as the Red Book, but it has that. It's in that same category of things. It's basically his, you know, political, socio-political philosophy. You know,
Hmm.
put into a book form. Basically, how he views a society, how it should be ran, how it should be governed, what's the role of the people, what's the role of you know what I mean. His whole just kind of political disposition is that book.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's heavy, man. I mean, he wrote a book on it. And I mean, bar none, right? Mercury is the ruler of the third house, which is, right, literally the hand, right? And it's conjunct Jupiter, which again shows the writing of some spiritual, right, apparatus. So definitely, bar none, it really just shows us his chart, right? It really does. It shows a very strong propensity to being his chart. Even in the D9, his Mars is debilitated in the D9. So that's pretty strong for cancel for the debilitation. I mean, had he got to that Mars Dasha, there would have been a problem. There would have been a major problem for people's with regards to that particular his agenda. He would have been relentless. He'd have been so forceful. He probably would have been to the point. Let's create a military structure in order to get this done. They had, trust me, they know this knowledge just like we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So you don't think they said, well, he's coming up on a Mars Dasha period. Mars is debilitated. We need to get, we need to get this guy out of here quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yeah.
Right. So, for all intents and purposes, right, he ends his life, right? He goes through the Moon Dasha, and you can see Moon is heartfelt, right? Moon is, I care, right? And it rules his ascendant, right? So, and it rules Mars, right? This is going to be like literally the time when he's going to say, you know what, let's go ahead and make this happen. The moon is a part of us that gives birth to things, right? And so he was at that point of giving birth. Now Mars is the birth pains, but when when a woman's in birth pains, if she got your hand, she could crush it. You know what I mean? That's not a time you want to play, right? When you're having birth pains.
Yeah.
And so Mars would have been that push to make that whatever he was going to bring to birth manifest, right? So, looking at the dashas in that moon dasha is when he, really has a high and a low, right? And so moon dashas talk about just that, where you have literally tidal wave effects in life. And starting off in the moon dasha obviously was high tide, right? Now, one of the secrets that we talk about in this particular system is how to read when a dasha is going to take effect, right? Or when something's going to take effect. And so moon is in the first 9 degrees, right, which is the first dracana of the sign. So the positive period would have been in the first 9, let's see, moon dasha is 10 years. So the first 3.5 years, that would have been very splendorous for him in that time. That's when he literally would have been having more momentum, right? So what is it, between 02 to 05, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's that period is when that period was very advantageous. From that time on, right, then it begins to wane, right? And so 05 to let's see, from 05, he is the subdasha is Jupiter to Saturn, and the Saturn begins and starts at 07. So even during this period, he's still very stable. But I believe in 09, that's probably when they probably started to really peer into him, because he has K2 now. He's Moon K2, and remember that which that what you do is what will be done
To you.
to you. It's true, right? This is what happened to him. Wasn't he overthrown by a coup d'etat? Right? Crazy, isn't it? Right.
Yeah.
Well, in the moon K2 Dasha, that's when it would have started. right? That's when they would have begun to plot to say, you know what, we got to get him, right? Now, Moon Venus, right? You're still somewhat covered, but remember, Venus is ruled by Mars, so Mars is being the Yoga Karaka. They couldn't get to him quite yet, but
Yeah.
when he gets to the Moon Sun Dasha, and that Sun is what?
Government.
Government, right? And Moon, right, is literally the ascendant himself. So the government being conjunct Saturn, right? And remember, Saturn rules what planet? K2, which is overthrowing. Now he's overthrown. Sun also rules Rahu, the second lord, right? And so here's the strange thing. Now when we pull up the transits, that's phenomenal that K2 conjuncts the sun, and the sun is the Dasha lord, the Dasha sublord, and sun is government, and K2 is overthrowing as well. Isn't that something?
Yeah, on the day.
On the day of, K2 is conjuncting sun by degree. And folks, if you didn't know, the 11th house for any cardinal sign, Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, the 11th house is what's called a Badakstana house, or a house of obstructions, right? And so guess who causes the obstructions for those types of ascendants? Your friends, or your people that literally you consider your network or group, right? They're the ones that literally come to get you. The people that are literally in your own network, your own circle. Right. So remember, espionage has to happen from the inside out. So during that K2 period, I'm sure that's when the beginnings begin to start to peel out. And during that particular moon, sun, Bhukti, Dasha Bhukti, which is the Dasha Sandhi, is the end. Right. So he dies literally right at the end, literally right before Mars comes. Right. So these Dasha Sandhis are serious time flux points. But you can see, right on that day, K2 was right on his sun.
Yep, right. His son's 2257 and K2 is 2251.
Wow. Can't get any, right? You can't get any more accurate than that. And then not only that, look at the ascendant. Mars is there as well.
Yep. Mars.
So, pretty interesting stuff, but I would say dead on. Right? Dead on.
And by the way, y'all, this is coming out right around the time of when he transitioned. So, like I said, we didn't do that on purpose, but
yeah, he was killed today.
Yeah, on the day we record.
They record, yeah.
Yeah.
So karma is a piece, but it's clearly written, right? And people say, well, you have a choice. Ask him that when they caught him. Right? Ask him that when these periods and dashas were unfolding. Didn't have a choice. Ask him when the coup d'etat happened. I mean, if you could, did he have a choice? That's a compulsion. That's something that you follow to the nth degree, right? So this is by far this man's chart, right? And I would say whoever did the time rectification was probably very astute of these factors, because it really does match very well.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. I mean, there's a book. It's not an astrology book, but you listen to this episode, I would encourage everybody to check out a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is give you some little tidbits of how these type of things happen.
Yeah. That's serious business. Indeed. I mean, if you look, his descendant degree is 12 degrees, isn't it?
Yep.
Look at Pluto.
Yeah, it's right within a degree.
That's close.
Yeah.
If it's that close, that's when you can that's when it works, right? when it's like 4 or 5 degrees, it's flailing. But it's in 1 or 2 degrees, especially in that 1 degree, and it's Pluto. Yeah, his life was definitely about transformation, about upheavals, about destruction and rebuilding, and that's exactly what he did.
Yep.
Wow, phenomenal, phenomenal.
In, indeed. Indeed. Well, as always, this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group and Calipurusha Astrology and our good old folks over there on Patreon. Um, as always, thank you all for your support. Indeed. Yeah, man, we got another one in the bag, man. This is a, excellent, kind of case study or whatnot. We could have did this in assassinations episode, actually.
We actually could have, but
Yeah.
we could have. Yeah, we could have. Yeah,
Yeah. But it's a little bit,
still a good one.
it's more a little bit more, flail to Muammar al-Gaddafi than just the assassination. So, I
Indeed,
think it deserved the right to have his own show
true,
or whatnot.
true indeed.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So, as always, man, you can follow us on um, Cosmic Convos podcast on Facebook. You can catch us Cosmic Convo on Instagram. Catch us at pushitforward.com. You can get to all these links in our Instagram. We got the whole link tree set up or whatnot. You can get to that, get a chart, check out all the different platforms. Like I said before, we're on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, Pandora, and on pushitforward.com and Stitcher. That's the other one that we're on as well. So we're pretty much on all major podcasting platforms. So you can definitely check us out on there. Whichever one suits you, more convenient for you and stuff like that. Facebook and YouTube has the video. Yeah, but you could definitely check us out there. And Rod, tell people how they can get a hold of you again.
Yeah, just hit me up on Kalapurusha astrology at gmail.com or Facebook or IG, either one of those via Shechem Ra. So definitely get at me if you're interested in consultation or even classes, because the classes, y'all, we have a ball. We learn, we study, we use charts, we do all kind of different things. The students are actually, people are just coming like, let me just jump in, right? So if you think you can handle some real deal astrological knowledge, we're actually on level 2. So that's last until December. So if you are interested, hit me up. Definitely a lot of information, a lot of data to download, but it's definitely rewarding, and it's a live class, so we have a lot of fun.
Yes, and speaking of live, for those who don't know, if you follow us on YouTube or you subscribe on YouTube, you can catch us. We drop the episodes at 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday, so you can catch in live, and then you can sit right there. We'll be in the chat. And you can live chat with us while the episode's going on, ask questions, talk about this or talk about that. So that's definitely a good opportunity as well to connect with us. When the first episode, when the episodes drop, we premiere them on Wednesday morning. So definitely subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and share this with your friends, share it with your family and everything like that. We're trying to, really take all this to the next level and get this, this sidereal astrology in the mainstream, you know what I'm saying? To a certain degree, as mainstream as it can get. It's only going
Only so exactly. Only so far.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle, but we can at least get it to some more people indeed.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, I want to thank you all for tuning in. And we'll be back here next week, same time, same place. Another great episode, and everybody be safe out there, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.